Hi guys, welcome back to Here and Queer. Um, my name is Haz, they he.
And my name is Sav, she, her.
Whoa, wait, what? Who are
What?
you? Where's Daisy? What have
Well,
you done with Daisy
I'm
Jones?
I am an imposter. Daisy's whereabouts are unknown. But hi, I am Sav or Savannah. And um if you're somebody from Mount View, you may recognise my voice from the other podcast, Topical Juice. What?
Whoa.
Whoa.
I should probably just say you may have noticed when you clicked on this that we're currently not called Here and Queer. We're called Topical and Queer because it's
What?
Black History Month.
It is!
Woo!
Wowee! Woo!
So Sam is here
And she's
today
clear.
and she's queer. Um Today it's couples edition.
Oh my god.
Sorry, Daisy. Daisy didn't want a third wheel. So today so,
I don't know. We'll decide later.
so today Sam's in replacement of Daisy. Next week
Yeah.
I ain't gonna be here. At some point there'll be all three of us. But Sam's here to take over the podcast as our co-host.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to say hi, guys?
Hi guys. Um.
Oh, I like the way
Oh.
you say it. Daisy's fired.
Uh,
Um, right. So today our question is for this very first topical and queer Black History Month special edition. Um, the question is it more challenging to be black or queer? Ooh,
Ooh.
ooh. Sav, what do you have to say on the matter?
Yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so hi, Sav, she, her, as I said before, and my my queer I feel like I should probably talk about them both separately and then marry them. Basically, obviously, I've been black my whole life, um, and it's something that I've kind of had to deal with, um, and that's for me personally. I can say that the main struggle that I've kind of had as a black woman is the beauty standard and fitting into it. I feel like it affected me more as a child, because the beauty standards especially back in the early 2000s, did not look like me. And it's such a subconscious. No, nobody. I never had anyone walk up to me and be like, "You are not pretty because you are black." I never had anyone explicitly say that to me, but nobody needed to say that to me because it would be in like the media that you consume. Like, this is an example of a pretty girl, and the opposite of a pretty girl, the opposite of this pretty girl is ugly, and the opposite of that pretty girl was me. I have a really vivid memory actually of being very, very young, and my mum got me like black um one of those black like baby born dolls. And
Baby born.
yeah, right, one of those. And at the time, knowing my mum, she's probably really excited to like get that for me because it's like, this is like a toy that looks like you. And I'd seen them on the TV and I remember wanting one, like, but it was the white dolls. They didn't show the black ones on TV. They only showed the white ones. And I remember she handed it to me and she was like, "This one looks just like you." And I was upset. I was vexed because it wasn't in my brain at such a young age. It wasn't pretty, and my mum had just told me that it looked like me, and that's something that I remember. And I wish I could like hug my younger self. But basically, that just like if it wasn't an issue of a skin tone, it was a big issue of my hair. So yeah, that's pretty much been the biggest struggle for me, as well as then 2020 happening and me seeing like the civil rights movement be reborn, and like seeing
Yeah.
black trauma left, right, and center. Like that's a given. But personally, that was my biggest issue, just coming to accept what I actually look like. But I'm not even fully there yet, but I'm like at peace with that. And then on the flip side of that, we have the queer experience, and that's something that kind of at the time took me by surprise, but looking back at it now, it probably shouldn't have, because me being quite young and thinking about the fact that I liked girls, in my brain was just, oh, I must just really, really want to be friends with them. And I didn't talk to anyone about it. And I'm very lucky, like, it would have, at no point was I thinking, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to tell my mum? Or like, that was never, I'm really lucky in the sense that that was never an issue for me. But actually discovering what it was that I was feeling, I didn't actually fully understand until like last year. Literally, it took me pretty much my entire life. So I'm very much still figuring myself out. I could give myself labels if I wanted to, but to be honest, like, I'm just queer. Like, sometimes I'll be like, I'm pan or I'm bi, but at the end of the day, I'm just queer. Yeah.
I love that.
So that's my autobiography.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. And then, like, onto the actual question. This question actually stems from a slightly different discussion that I had when I was 16, and it's a discussion that played in my mind that I wish had gone a bit differently, but like I didn't have the life experience to argue my point. Where literally in the year 2020, I got asked this question by well, I didn't get asked this question. This girl that I knew, this white girl, put a poll up on Instagram, and the poll was, bear in mind, this was like the height of like the BLM movement, like getting like screen time everywhere. The question she posed was, is it harder to be black or to be a woman? And I responded to her and I was like, well, to me, it's like harder to be black. And the response I got from this white woman was, no, you can't compare the two struggles. They're incomparable. And at the time I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Like, I can't compare your struggles as a woman to my struggles being black. But actually I can, because I am both. I can do that. You can't do it because you're not both, but I am, and I can tell you what one I find worse because I can. And it kind of got me thinking that these discussions do happen a lot. And I wondered, like, where this obsession with like comparing struggles comes from, especially when you're like a minority times two. Like, I'm literally a black queer woman. Sorry, a black queer Yeah, I'm like a black queer neurodivergent woman. like, yeah. And
what more do you want to throw in?
Like anything else, like, and I feel like it's really interesting because even though I do experience kind of some sort of hardship from both of them, I do think there is truth in what I was told, that they aren't comparable. But I think it is fair to say that the white queer experience and the black queer experience are two like completely different things.
Yeah.
And I feel like, without getting too deep into it, how different communities perceive queerness, unfortunately, are different. Also, one thing to add to all of this is I've kind of like grown up. This is like back to like consuming media, which is another whole topic in itself, but I've
Hmm.
kind of seen both queerness and blackness and how it's predominantly represented on media, and they're both like how many coming out scenes have you seen that has ended with somebody getting kicked out? Or I could
Far too many.
far too many, or I could sit here for years and list how much black trauma speculation is readily available to everyone this Black History Month, which, going on a bit of a
Hmm.
tangent, is like, well, I mean, for both of them, like, there comes a point where I don't want to just be defined by my trauma, and I do not have um I don't really have trauma as a queer person because it's something that I'm still kind of just coming to terms with. But seeing people who are the same as me go through all of this in real life and on the media is one thing, and then seeing what black people have gone through for years and years being shown in the media is another thing, and then seeing like there's so much as well on black queer people and how they're treated by, for example, like religious families, you know,
Hmm.
and that's again another discussion for another day. But you're sitting here and you're a black queer person and you're watching people from both ends of that be treated in a certain way, and it does so much to your mental health, I feel like. And I feel like this is something
Hmm.
that people don't realize, is that you don't want to see yourself represented in certain characters and then watch those characters get beaten down for who they are.
Exactly. I think I brought it up in the last episode with Charles, but Pose.
Yes.
Pose is positive black queer trans representation, and it's the first time I've seen it. But even in that show, there's spoiler alert, there is death. Like,
Oh.
main characters are murdered for
Yeah.
being black and queer. And like, whilst it is a celebration, it's less of like a like black struggle porn than like
Yeah.
a lot
It
of
literally
than
is.
a
You
lot of
literally
films.
call it that.
It is. It is. It is less of that. Because I don't think Billy Porter would have any of that, would he?
No.
He's instantly he's like, I'm making it fabulous. But it it is less of that, but it is still there. Like,
Yeah.
it's ingrained into it, obviously, because it is ingrained into the life of queer people, of black people, of queer black people. But it's undertones. But that is the only, for me right now. That is the only sort of media, the only sort of is the only series I can think of that depicts being black and queer in that way without it just being, oh, this person is queer and black,
Mm.
therefore they're awful, they're horrible, let's beat them up. Like,
I think,
or
yeah.
worse, kill them. Like it, yeah.
I was gonna say, I think another one is Eric from Sex Education. Like,
Oh, of course.
he's black and he's queer, and like, don't get he does have like moments of identity, but in my
Yeah.
opinion, that is also a coming of age thing. They're like,
Yeah.
like end of secondary or like sixth form age. I think a lot of
Hmm.
that is coming to terms and him coming to. He's literally like he's queer and his family know, and you don't have to sit through him plucking up the courage to tell everyone, and his Christian family kicking him out, and it's so refreshing to just see a coming of age story. Also, Heartstopper, like
Of course.
we've got I forget her name. What is her name?
Yasmin Finney.
Yes, Yasmin Finney, but also is it is the character's name Tara?
I can't remember, but I know exactly who you're on about.
Yeah, or I need to Google this now.
She bi? I can't remember.
Yes, it's Tara, the lesbian,
Tara.
or bi, I don't know. But again, oh my gosh, like she's literally just black and queer.
Yeah. Full stop. Same with I can never remember the character's name, but Amari Douglas's character in It's a Sin. Yes. Okay. Pretty depressing series. Well, not all depressing, but it is about the AIDS crisis. So, but like the first scene, with him strutting out the house in his skirt, like is just so. It's empowering to. I feel empowered as a gender non-conforming person watching it. I can't even imagine how empowering it must feel to watch it being queer and black. But I mean, obviously, again, it's there's a struggle, but that character is just queer and black, and I mean, the end of the series, his again very Christian father is wow. We're giving out spoilers here. Is okay with him being gay. Like it's lovely to see, but there needs to be more of it.
Yeah, I just realized that in Sex Education there is a scene where Eric does get beaten up, which of course,
but it's one episode.
It's not his whole, and of course they do deal with that very well, and he doesn't bounce right back. But that was a character arc. It's not everyday Eric crying because
he's the character.
Yeah, and I feel like that's such a big important thing that maybe people don't realize, is that while some people are like speculation and oh my gosh, like I feel like wherever I'm watching like queer people struggle or black people struggle media, I always feel like for people who have no idea what's going on, like it's always like, oh, poor them, like wow, look at them, like look what they're going through, oh, poor them. I'll sit like I can't explain it, but it just irks me. Yeah, it does. And also I realize that I have yet to answer the question, and I feel like I just suddenly thought of it.
We can tangent if we talk about something. It's absolutely fine. You've listened to this podcast, you know we go off on one.
But I just realized that before I'd even answer that question, I think it would depend on who it was that was asking. Like if I were to go back in time knowing what I know now and see that person ask that question, I'd be like, none of your bloody business. Like, what's
also,
it to you?
Can I just throw it out there? I'm just gonna say it. Straight people, cis people, white people specifically, do better.
Yeah, what?
Educate yourself.
Heavy emphasis on yourself.
Yourself.
Like don't get me wrong, we're your friends and we love that you're being allies and all of that, but really, really, really think about whether or not we want to sit here and talk to you about our trauma, and really, 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 really think about how free Google is.
Yeah,
it is free of charge.
The only thing I can compare it to is being part of the trans community, and it's literally not even a comparison. But like, I know from my experience of people being like, so when you were in school, so when blah 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 blah, what's it like every day? Blah blah blah. It just feels horrible, and like, don't get me wrong, a lot of the time I don't mind talking about it, but
yeah, for sure.
Like, but come on, like just I think it's a
Yeah,
different thing as well. It's quite a lot of the time I don't want this to put people off being like, Harry, I have a really like serious question that I can't find answers
yeah,
to, because no one, if you ask Google, what does it feel like to be in this
yeah.
specific position that we
And like
just saw you in? Like,
as your
you're not gonna get an
friends,
answer.
yeah, as your friends, we will like tell you, and we won't
Yeah,
hold it against you. The fact that you want to be educated at all, it means
it's
it's not.
great.
Yeah, it's great in my opinion.
Mm, I agree.
Yeah,
But yeah,
but
it's just, oh my gosh.
yeah, but literally, if I was to go back in time and see a white girl ask people whether, because if you really boil it down to, why on earth would you need to know the answer to that question?
Exactly.
Literally mind your own business. If you were white and you asked me that question, I'd be like, mind your own business. But even if you weren't, it doesn't matter, because being queer and black is so not niche, but it's so specific anyway, that your own struggles, whether you say one is more difficult than the other, the next person will say, well, actually I find that this is more difficult than the other. And if you have two, three, four, five different minority things, they're a part of
Hmm.
you. But I think it's really important not to let it define you, but let it, it's a hard balance. Like, let it be a part of who you are, but don't dwell on, well, I can't sit here and be like, don't dwell on the hardships, because when they get you down, they get you down. But just know that you're more than like the 250,000 labels that everyone has for everything these days. Like,
Yeah.
not to be one of those like, I hate labeling things, but like sometimes, like, bloody hell, like, why can't we just be? Do you know what I mean?
If only. Like, I know I'm similar. I sort of hate labels. On one side, I find them really. I'm happy for anyone who finds them affirming. Like, I love
Mm-hmm.
that. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I say things and I'm like, wow, that really affirmed who I am. But like,
Mm-hmm.
again, as someone with many labels and a member of various minority groups, which I won't go into because it's not, it's Black History Month.
Yeah,
So this podcast isn't about that. We can talk about that later. But I, it does. Sometimes I'm like, wow, how many labels do you want me to have? Like,
literally.
can't I just be a human? Can I be human for once?
Yeah, I feel like
Anyway.
everyone's so desperate to put everyone into like a box, so that in everybody's brain it makes sense. They can be like, you're this, this, and this. Okay, that's fine. That's what you are. And I
Mm.
sometimes cannot help but wonder how we got to a point where everybody has to be something, whether it's everybody has to be a boy or a girl, or everything about you has to have a name, so that I know how to categorize you and everything will act accordingly. To be honest, it's a
Hmm.
very neurodivergent way of thinking, which is why more people should get tested. But that is not what this is about. All I'm saying is that it's way, 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 way more complicated than it needs to be. And like, I don't think that was the point of this, but my point still stands. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, like even me being like, is it harder to be queer as a queer black woman, or black as a queer black woman? At the end of the day, it's still hard, and that's what the issue is.
exactly. I've been thinking about this whilst we were talking earlier. It's like you actually can't. Well, I don't know. You can compare for yourself which aspects of your life you find harder, but no one can actually say
Hmm.
as a like no one can actually say as a member of this community, as a member of this minority, um, it is harder like this aspect of your life is harder. Like
Mhm.
it's because it's such a specific thing. Like being queer and white is different to being queer and black, is different to being queer and a woman, is different to being a queer black woman, is different to being a neurodivergent queer black woman, like is different to being a queer black man, is different to
Mhm.
being a queer black man with a religious aspect of your life. You know, they're so, everyone in this world is so different
Mhm.
that you can compare for yourself, but you can't compare generally.
Yeah, I 100% agree because believe it or not, every human life is actually a bit different. Like
Yeah.
if I was in a majority black space to the point where the label black doesn't even make any sense because we're all the same, but I'm queer and everyone else is straight, that might be different to me being in a like all white or queer space, but being the only black person, like both of those people are going to say, oh, it's harder to be queer or it's harder to be black. But that's just for you. That's
Yeah.
not for anybody else to say, regardless of if they have the experience of being both or not. I could never go up to somebody else and be like, oh, so as another queer black woman, like obviously you find it harder to be black, or obviously you find it harder to be queer, because that doesn't make sense. That's not
But
how it
also
works.
everything influences everything. Like
Mhm.
your experience of being black influences your experience of being queer. So you
Mhm.
can't actually say, I find being queer harder, because some of the things that you associate with being queer may also be some of the things you associate with or don't associate, but are associated with being black and queer. So
Mhm.
it's a mind fuck.
Yes, it is, and
It's
that's
an
okay.
absolute mind fuck. Yeah, it
That
is
that is
okay. Of
okay.
course it's okay. This really like isn't a question that should ever be asked. Like, I know
Yeah.
we're answering it, but like,
The answer,
it's
yeah.
it. What a silly question.
The answer is mind your own business.
The answer is mind your own business.
Yeah,
To be fair, the answer to every question asked in this podcast is
is
going
mind
to
your
be mind
business.
your own business. Mind your own fucking business. I think we can
Yeah,
put that in there just to
period.
emphasize. With that being said, we will continue the podcast.
Yes.
Because, if nothing else, we're here to educate.
Yes.
We're here to educate. This is a fun way of educating yourself without asking people to bring up all their trauma.
Yay!
You're welcome.
You're welcome. And on that note,
On that note, I think we should wrap it up.
I
Um,
agree.
Thank you, Sav.
Thank you, Haz.
I will. Well, I'll see you very soon. But for everyone listening, I won't see you for a couple of weeks now. So have fun. Have fun chatting to Daisy next week.
I will.
Goodbye, all.
Bye, gays.
Bye, guys.